We've made it halfway through the week. That means it's hump day. We have 30 minutes of sports coverage coming right at you. Last night, news broke that after 4 seasons as the Ducks head football coach, Oregon decided to fire Mark Helfrich. He led the team to a 4-8 record this past season, including losses to rival Washington and a collapse in Corvallis against the Beavers. Today, some players reacted to the firing of their head coach, and our own Hayden Herrera was down at Autzen Stadium, and he has more.
The morning after Mark Helfrich was fired as head coach of the Oregon Ducks, 3 players from the team shared their thoughts on the decision made by athletic director Rob Mullins. We heard from Doug Brunner, one of the few veterans of the offensive line, Troy Dye, a bright spot on the defense, and Brady Breeze, who redshirted this season, but someone that Helfrich said could have a big 2017.
He was like such a big role model to so many of us and kind of like a father figure. And like one of the main reasons a lot of these guys came here. So obviously him leaving is a big impact to a lot of us.
How he's really going to judge his success as a coach is how we are as men 20, 30 years from now when we all have kids. So I always thought that was a really cool thing about Coach Helf.
The guy was just trying to do his job. He's out here coaching every day, coming out every day. And to hear rumors about, oh, he's on the hot seat, he's going to get fired. I mean, I can only imagine how that feels for him personally.
You know, I was talking to my roommate Brendan Schooler last night, and I was like, hey, this is a time where we need to bring this team together because we're like at the lowest point we've ever been. And the last 8 years, because we've obviously never lost to Oregon State for 8 years since I was like in 2nd grade or something.
I mean, just to get an edge back is just to have their mind right and just to buy back into what the process is and to listen to the new head coach and just to follow what they need to follow and just bring the energy.
Now, the players also told us that there hasn't been a full team meeting since the news of Helfrich's firing, but Breeze was one player that said he'd like to have one before Christmas break. From Autzen Stadium, I'm Hayden Herrera. Now let's send it back to you.
Thanks, Hayden. Many have been speculating that the Ducks losing the Civil War for the first time since 2007 was the deciding factor in Mullins' firing of Helfrich. Mullins put those rumors to rest.
I wanted to get some distance away from the emotion of the result of the game, and the football team had a full Sunday morning. They had a football team banquet, so my intent was to get away from the emotion, to be able to reflect myself, let them get through their team banquet, close up the season, and then have an opportunity to talk with Mark. I mean, this is an important decision. Again, Mark's a class guy, a great guy, and I wanted to be very deliberate in my process, in my review, to make sure we were making the right decision. This system that's in place right now has been here, 8 years. And absolutely, that's part of the calculation when you're trying to make this decision. There's been a formula that had worked. And so that's certainly a part of the process of review.
The man who created this system Mullins was referring to, Chip Kelly. He spoke on the firing of his former offensive coordinator.
I just felt bad for Mark. I mean, I love him like a brother. He's a tremendous person. He's a hell of a football coach, but he's an even better person. So just felt for him and the rest of the guys on that staff. It's a unfortunate thing that goes on in this profession. We all know it when we signed up for it, but when it happens, you're still kind of taken aback by it. And I love the people, everybody associated with the university. They were fantastic to me. So if I can help them, I can help them. But my thoughts are with Helf right now.
Let's take a look at some of the coaches that are being rumored to take over at Oregon. P.J. Fleck, a popular name, the head coach at Western Michigan, has that team undefeated. Greg Schiano, the defensive coordinator at Ohio State, still has some important football ahead of him with the Buckeyes this season. And other names emerging, according to Fox Sports reporter Bruce Feldman, Willie Taggart, head coach at the University of South Florida. Now, Mark Helfrich has had some ups and downs in his 4 seasons as the Ducks' top dog. Our own Hayden Herrera back with us and brings us a look back at Helfrich's career with the Ducks.
A little while ago, I met with Mark and informed him that after much thought and careful consideration, I've decided to change leadership in our football program.
November 29th, 2016, the end of the Mark Helfrich era at Oregon. But let's go back to the beginning of Mark's journey in Eugene when Chip Kelly hired the then 35-year-old Helfrich to be his offensive coordinator.
I'm a Duck. I grew up a Duck and wasn't good enough to be a Duck, but worked my way back around and happy to be here.
Although Chip called the plays, Helfrich played an integral role for the Ducks, helping them reach the BCS National Championship game in the 2010 season, where they would fall to the Auburn Tigers. Perhaps his biggest contribution as OC was helping discover future Heisman winner Marcus Mariota. The 2012 season saw Marcus lead the Ducks to a Fiesta Bowl victory. Then when Chip Kelly bolted Eugene for the NFL in January of 2013, the reins were handed to the Coos Bay native, Helfrich becoming the 32nd head coach in program history.
Coaching at Oregon is the pinnacle for me.
I think Mark Helfrich is going to do a great job.
The Ducks were poised for greatness in 2013, starting the season 8-0 and ranked number 2. But 2 losses in 3 weeks at Stanford and at Arizona ended any hopes of a national title. The Ducks beat Texas in the Alamo Bowl, and defensive coordinator Nick Aliotti retired after the season. The expectations were higher in 2014. Oregon rebounded from another loss against Arizona and made it to the Pac-12 title game, where they were finally able to beat the Wildcats. Then the inaugural college football playoff awaited them, where the Ducks took down defending national champions Florida State in the Rose Bowl, cruising to another national championship game. But once again, it wasn't meant to be.
Got it again. Elliott! Touchdown, Ohio State!
Zeke Elliott and the Buckeyes came away as champs. That was Mariota's final game in a Duck uniform. Marcus's departure for the NFL may be the first sign that changes were headed their way to Eugene. With no true successor at quarterback already on campus, Helfrich and the Ducks turned to graduate transfer Vernon Adams to lead the team on offense. Early in the season, the Ducks were one missed time pass away from beating number 5 Michigan State on the road. Adams would soon be out with an injury, and everyone learned the offense couldn't really run without him. Losses to Utah and Washington State at home were nearly redeemed when Adams returned and Oregon won 6 in a row. They earned a trip to the Alamo Bowl and had a 31-0 halftime lead against TCU in San Antonio, but once again, Adams was injured and the Ducks had no backup plan. The Horned Frogs pounced and staged one of the biggest comebacks in bowl history, beating Oregon in triple overtime. And finally, 2016, where the Ducks tried another transfer quarterback, but quickly spiraled. A 5-game losing streak, losing to Washington for the first time in 13 years. And then, last Saturday, losing the Civil War in Corvallis, all leading to Rob Mullins informing Helfrich that his services were no longer needed in Eugene. Now begins the search for Helfrich's replacement in a new era for Oregon football.